If you're tired of the standard business and marketing fundamentals, frameworks, and funnels, you need a little mischief. Get ready to turn up the volume on the CEO Mischief Maker podcast, where you access conversations with seasoned business owners who have smashed through mindset barriers, innovated the standard boring business and marketing playbooks, and executed future-paced strategies with bleeding-edge tools and tactics to micro-fail their way into massive success and growth. We are Mindset Impact Strategic Catalysts helping innovative entrepreneurs focus. We are CEO Mischief Makers. Ready to make a little mischief? I hope you are enjoying my conversation with JC Hite, and I invite you to check out the Commitment Summit. Now, I was invited by JC and his wife Kathryn to attend the Commitment Summit in Costa Rica last year, 2022, and this year proves to be incredible, just like last year. The speakers, the intimacy, it's a smaller conference. It's not huge like some of the conferences where they have 4,000 and 5,000 people. These are a few hundred dedicated agency owners and business owners who are there to learn and understand the future of service-based business. Check it out, thecommitmentsummit.com. See you there. All right, CEO Mischief Makers, welcome back to the conversation with the amazing JC Hite. All right, JC, thank you for the conversation. And I'm telling you, if you're listening to this and you have not gone and listened to the stories and the mindset shifts that JC shared in Monday's episode, you need to stop here, go back and listen to that, because I guarantee you we're going to build on that. So JC, welcome back. First off, hello there.
Thank you. Excited to keep it going.
Yeah. So you talked a lot last time about agencies and about the agency first business that you were in and how you exited that and then started Hite shortly thereafter. Tell me how you took the standard agency model of having a skill, marketing in this sense, in this case, and then offering that skill as a service for businesses and charging them for it. That's a standard agency model. How are you innovating that? And you're doing some pretty incredible things. So what exactly are you doing to turn agencies on its head?
Yeah. So we had an evolution here, I guess, so to speak. In our agency, the original one, we grew very fast, and we predominantly did pay-per-click, but we had so many resources. And in case you don't know this out there, the big agencies get a lot of help. Like Google would give us $50,000 to $100,000 in free ad spend to go after new clients, right? Like you can't compete with us on PPC because it doesn't cost me anything, right? So these huge advantages. So the first thing we did at that old agency was, how do we give that advantage to smaller agencies and work with them? And we started a white label company, and we kind of went through the white label process. And we were there before it was really popular. This was 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And then we went through the last conversation, ended up leaving this organization. We kind of sat back to the table and go, how does this really look to grow? And so we started breaking down how an agency grows. And there's 4 pillars of growth, really for any business, but specifically for an agency. Go through them very quickly. One is quality fulfillment. You have to have a great product. Number 2 is operations. Doesn't matter how good your product is if you don't have ops. You have to have sales, includes prospecting, growth, all this stuff. And then a 4th thing called what we classify as business intelligence. When to hire, what to look at, how do we push forward? Do we use this coach or that coach? Like the decision-making process of the agency. Most agencies, here's the problem that we found. Most agencies doing under 100K in revenue, MK, they do all 4 of these, but the problem is all the 4 of these are not connected. So what do? Well, they white label their fulfillment. So they kind of, WSM or Reach Local or one of these other white label fulfillment companies, that they act as your chief product officer, we'll say. And then for operations, who do we go to in our world for operations? We'll go to someone like MK, or we'll go to someone like Sean Clark, and we'll learn all about operations and systemizing and things like this, right? And then for sales, what do we normally do? Normally we hire a coach. Like that's where we bring in a coach and we have someone that, teaches, and then we read books and stuff like this. So we have all of these kind of different elements of our small agency doing less than 100K, right? Because we're normally a 1, 2, 3-man show.
Yeah.
And this is all great. All of these coaches are incredible in their own right. But let me give you a scenario. A lot of times what people do is they go to their fulfillment company. Hey, JC, what should I be? How should I be growing? What should I be selling? How do I, you know what? I think as a product person, I think you should be selling more SEO. Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. And then you go over and you talk to Sean and you go look at the webinars of someone who's really into systems and tech. And what do they say? Oh, you should be doing SaaS. You should be doing more automation. And then you go over to your coach and your coach is like, well, that's all great, but the easiest thing to sell is Facebook ads. So let's go into, so you end up with this, like, imagine if the CFO, the chief financial officer for Ford, didn't actually work for Ford. Imagine if the chief sales officer at Ford didn't actually work. You can learn from these, but they've got to all go together. So we started working through this. How do we get all these things together? How do we combine? How do we help our small agencies and mid-sized agencies have the systems that match our fulfillment, and then sales that match our systems? And then we're learning so much for all this product. How do we feed that back into intelligence at home? I was talking to a friend over at Chick-fil-A, and they were like, JC, you should franchise. And I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because I don't want to own a McDonald's or a Burger King or any other fast food restaurant you can think of when you think of franchising. And he then said, you're the idiot. That's not all franchise is. He said, and then he started talking. He's like, actually, if you look in the world, the largest organizations in the world have either licensing or franchising around them. You look at automotive, every automotive thing out there is, you're not talking to Ford in your local city. They're licensing the name, right? You look at food industry, you look at even groceries, Sam's Choice, all that stuff is licensed, so on and so forth. And so what does this look like in an agency model? And that's what we ended up building. We started revolutionizing the model. We became a franchisor, where we basically are taking agencies throughout the United States, throughout the world, and we're coming together and going, you know what? We all kind of have the same system. So let's just build one amazing, powerful system. Yeah. Let's use one fulfillment company. Let's use one sales methodology, and let's all be independent, work independently. And it acts very similar to like a shelter insurance or, in the insurance space, right? Where you have your agency focuses on what they do best, which is building relationships and sales. And it's been incredible for us. Even through COVID, we, I think, gained about 100 employees during COVID, when most people were shrinking, and Inc. 5000 list, all that good stuff, right? So how do we grow? We're stronger together than we are separate, essentially what it boils down to.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. But that's still, your initial thought, because again, we have this idea of what franchise is. And it's all from those companies and those industries that you talked about. So how did you apply that franchise methodology to agencies, to services, not products? Because that's the biggest difference between those two, unless you look at insurance, because that's a service as well, product, but you know what I mean? It's not an actual physical thing. So how did you translate that? How did you innovate that? And first off, be open to it. You had to be open to the opportunity and the possibility. And then what did you do? How did you actually do that?
Well, we kind of go back to that initial thing. Like, most agencies out there are either outsourcing the knowledge or outsourcing the work in all these categories anyway, right? Like, they're finding a white label provider. Well, what if I could be that white label provider? They're trying to find a coach to help them sell more. Well, I could also be that. And with their systems, well, I can give you systems. Our entire company is built on Salesforce. We have some of the most integrated, incredible systems you can imagine. And so you start working through and you start looking at all of these agencies throughout the United States. We're all kind of doing the same thing. Like, we may have a little different pitch or a little different saying or title our package a little uniquely, but at the end of the day, it's the same. To do great PPC is the same all the way around. To do great SEO is pretty much the same all the way around, so on and so forth, right? And so if it's all the same, what's the difference? The difference is the relationships. That's what, for me, is very difficult, is how do we get really good relationships? Because what we found, at some point in that story that I missed out on, is I sold a tech ed company to IBM, IBM Watson. And that tech company was based on data analysis. So I'm a data guy. I love analyzing data. And if you look in the industry, churn rate on a localized level is incredibly lower than any other niched out specific, territory that you could work in. So localizing everything is very interesting, meaning that an agency in Little Rock working with a bunch of his neighbors in Little Rock has lower churn than working with people from around the world that you've never met.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that was the part I was most surprised with when I first met you and I first understood what it is you do and how your agency works and how your franchising works. Because everything that is online is always saying niche down, niche down, niche down, get to a specific thing that you do, only do SEO or only do PPC or only do webinars and it's really chasing that niche. And in that sense, you have done that, but in a very different way. You've niched down to local and doing all the things necessary for a marketing agency for a local community. And that's again, flipping it upside down. It's not, so you know the people you work with, you know the people you serve in that community, they know you're in the same community, your kids go to the school, you have those relationships. And once you get to that level where it's actually person to person, you know who you can work with, you know who you should stay away from, you know all those things. Whereas someone halfway across the world, you just know them on a Zoom call and that's it. And you have no other relationship with them. Do you think that is what has allowed you to innovate in this way and be able to take that franchise concept and really, really make it work?
I think that analyzing what you just said there, but on many different levels of understanding where churn comes from, because building an agency is about two numbers, selling more and churning less, right? Like that's the only way to grow. I think with any business, sell more, churn less, right? And so understanding that at a deeper level is so crucial. And there's so many variables in our industry. And so we diagnose churn. I mean, every single client that leaves us, we diagnose it on a lot of different variables, all within Salesforce, within reporting, within surveys, within, all kinds of different things. And so then using that data to make decisions, we talked about this, before, making decisions logically versus emotionally, because at the end of the day, clients don't always, you don't always tell the truth when you cancel. Oh no, it's on me. Don't worry about it. Is it really on me? It might be on, and so how do we really get to the truth? And so there's a lot of things that against the grain of what we normally do in our industry that we have found that we do things a little bit different. And I think it has helped. Our franchises on average sell, on average, I think our FTD now says about $11,000 in new sales per month is our average sales per agency. Our churn on average is a little below 8%, which is well below the industry average. And so keeping those numbers on track. But at the core, relationships are nil to none, the most important thing, whether that's with your team or so on and so forth. I'd say the other factor there, along with the relationships, it's not just about keeping clients, which is really important. It's about keeping team members as well. I probably have 50 team members that have been with us longer than 3 years, right? So these guys are incredibly intelligent. They know our company inside and out. They've been with our culture so long, where a lot of our agencies, they churn employees just as quick as they do clients. How can you get really good at what you do with such high turnover?
Okay, hold on. If your mindset was shifted, you were inspired to innovate, and you were spurred into action, don't just move on with your day. Focus, my friend, and take a few minutes to visit CEOmischiefmaker.com to learn more about the value that was shared with you today. Please act now and create some CEO mischief of your own.